You're listening to Behind the Bulldogs on News Radio WBRN.
Off the left side to the end zone. Touchdown Bulldogs.
If I'm even having like a bad day on the course or something, I just look down at it and just feel like thankful that I'm able to be out there.
Making sure that we're like where our feet are and we're not thinking about outside distractions.
Welcome into Behind the Bulldogs, episode 4 of our summer series. Brody, we're already 4 episodes in. Brody Kaiser is my co-host today. Brody, what's going on?
Hey man, glad to be back. And it's always fun to talk about how the year ends up and it flew by and all of a sudden it's summer, but now it's almost 4th of July. And when it hits 4th of July, I feel like that's the turning point.
Yes.
Right? We get time off still after that. You know, it's not nothing too crazy at that point, but the golf outings start happening. And then all of a sudden the football players are here and camp begins. And the most exciting time of the year is upon us.
We're inching the apex of the summer hill.
Yep.
And once we get over, I mean, it's not just like a walk, it's a slide.
We're almost on the downslope.
Yeah, exactly. So today we are talking social media, storytelling, the things that happen behind the scenes in Ferris State athletics on the media side. And we are joined today by one of the masters in that department, writing, social media, the whole 9 yards, Sandy Gholston.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here with you guys to chop it up and just kind of talk about what we do and just give maybe a little more behind the scenes look at what we do, why we do it, and kind of what we get out of it.
Absolutely, yeah. And looking at a lot of the summer things, we'll kind of start there. But I'm really excited for this episode because there's been a lot of great changes, you know, even just having Sandy with us at the athletic department last year. I mean, just that by itself, Brody, I mean, made our
Big
jobs
time.
easier. And I mean, everything improved.
Big time. When Sandy came on in September last year, full-time in athletics, I mean, he did a lot of stuff broadcasting-wise, social media-wise, photography stuff for us here and there, but full-time athletics position for almost a year now, and it's been our social presence, feature stories on the website, all those sort of creative things have taken a huge jump. So shout out to Sandy.
I appreciate that. It's been a lot of fun for me to get over here and to get immersed in the athletics culture here, to walk the halls and run into the athletes and to be able to talk with them casually, to learn them, to learn the coaches, to learn our administrative staff. It really helps with, you know, what I really got into all this 4 years ago. I'm not going to say how many years because I don't want to age myself too much, but I got into it for the storytelling aspect of it, to be able to talk to coaches and to talk to the athletes and to find out what makes them tick and to be able to faithfully tell their story in a way that does them justice.
Thing about athletic communications too is that you can do that in a lot of different ways. You know, we talked about social media, we hit on some stuff with the website, feature stories, writing, but broadcasting wise, I mean, you've been broadcasting football for a very long time now. I don't know exactly how many years, and maybe you don't want to say that either, but like hopping on hockey this past season, couple of seasons, it's just, there's a lot of different creative ways you can go with that.
Yeah, I've been doing, I think a lot of people are surprised about this. I've been doing basketball longer than I've been doing football. So I kind of filled in for basketball when one of the color commentators was not able to be there. And I actually just jumped in while I was actually still writing for the newspaper here in Big Rapids. And then all of a sudden, you know, all these years later, I'm still doing it. And so, you know, some of the people have changed around me, but it's been really fun to be able to broadcast these games for all these years, 20 plus years for basketball and right at about 20 for football.
That's a long stretch of storied success for Ferris State.
You know, it's funny you say that because, you know, when we have games and sometimes we have the alumni games where the alumni from like basketball and football come back and they're married, they've got kids. And I'm like, man, I'm getting old, man. I'm getting old, but it's still fun. You know, it's great seeing the alums and it's great seeing the players right now and knowing or hoping that they're going to develop as well as you think that they could. And then hopefully they'll come back and continue to be Bulldogs for life.
Absolutely. I mean, the storytelling aspect for all three of us, and, you know, add Rob as well. I mean, broadcasting, journalism, social media, photo, video, like it all encompasses itself together. It's all fully immersed. And that is such a cool part of what we do. I feel that, and I know you guys feel that too. Looking at the summer, especially, I'm sure some people have seen some things, Sandy, you've put out, been really heavy on the features, which have been awesome. I know I just read the one on one of my former coaches, Melissa Kessler, which was so well done, by the way. Very well done. Kudos there.
Awesome story.
Just talk about what you're planning on in the summer and, you know, elaborating on, you know, what is kind of the game plan for a lot of Bulldog fans that are, you know, devoted listening into the show for what's coming in the next couple months.
I'm glad you mentioned the story about Melissa Kessler because that was one of my favorite stories of the year by far. I mean, that was a really fun story to do. And sometimes when you jump into a story like that, you have an idea of where you're going to go before you actually talk to the person. And then you talk to them. And if you do it right, if you get a little bit lucky, sometimes you find out that there's way more there than what you thought was going to be there when you first started. And that was the case when I did the story on Melissa. And that turned out to be a really gratifying story for me personally. I know she appreciated it. She sent me a very kind note. And to really watch the engagement of people in the community whose lives that she's impacted,
right,
to see them come in and commentate on that and to offer their insight. And that's not just with Melissa, but with so many student athletes across the board, you know, from tennis, most recently at the end of the athletic year, going all the way back to football and volleyball and soccer at the beginning of the academic year. It's really been fun for me to really tell those stories of the athletes, to find out what makes them tick, and to be able to bring that to the fans and give them another way of looking at Ferris State athletics. I also try to think, one thing I focus on, especially with the student athletes, is I try to focus on both sides of being a student athlete. So I try to tell you a little bit about what's their major and then what do they want to do with their career when they're done with Ferris, in addition to giving you the stuff that you really want to see, more so maybe with the actual athletics part. So I really try to balance it out and really try to tell their story.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think especially, I mean, for Brody and myself, you know, doing Off the Ice, Behind the Bulldogs, I mean, we're doing that in a different manner, but it's all the same. We're looking at them as people as much as they are students and 100%. Athletes, right? They're in the community, they're prominent with the Bulldog on their chest, but at the end of the day, they're people just like the students, just like community members, just like all the other staff as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally the reason that we started Off the Ice 3 years ago, and we're through 3 seasons, is to, you know, people see the number and the name on the jersey, but they don't always see what's under the helmet, what's under the mask. And that's the point of the podcast. And that's a big part of what you do, Sandy. And I think people engage with that sort of content because, like Brandon was saying, there's a human element there that is sometimes missed when you're looking up to these players as college athletes and icons almost, you know, people that the community turns to and says, oh, they're elevated to a certain status. And while that is true, there is the human element. And so that's part of what the storytelling side that we bring can help people see.
100%.
Yeah. And not only everything that you just said there, but they also see the numbers, and they can go to our website and they can see the statistics. I'll give you an example. During women's basketball season, when Caden Blanchard became our all-time scoring leader, we had Mia Riley reach 1,000 points. We had Maya Hiram reach 1,000 points. I wanted to be able to have people see more than just what the numbers say. Right. The numbers are impressive. You get 1,000 points for your career. That's impressive in basketball. And then you got Caden was right at the door of 2,000 points for her career. And so it's really great for people to be able to hear those stories. And then one thing that I have really tried to bring to athletics back in December and then in May was to be able to do photos of the student athletes as they graduated. They walk across the stage at Wink Arena to try to make a good faith effort to get a photo of every single graduate student athlete as they walk across the stage. And that's really personally gratifying for me. And I know it's been pretty well received.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Steve Brocklebank has been so imperative about it as well. You know, getting the student athlete board here in the hallway has been a big project for them. And so just being able to show that other side, I think is super important. I'm glad you brought up the photos because a lot of the parents, a lot of the fans, you know, family members, friends, like they're seeing, you know, whatever player, whatever athlete out there working, and it brings them some joy to be able to, you know, see their face, being able to see what they're doing. Because, you know, when you're a student athlete, I mean, I can attest to this. I know you guys can, just being around, like the workday never ends. You know, the time to really slow down and be able to talk to the people that you love the most. I mean, you're doing school, you're doing a job, you're doing practice. Like those things are hard. So it almost kind of works as a check-in to connect with family and friends. It's just in such a different way.
Yeah, it is. And you know, one of the things I really wanted to do was to really add something. I mean, because you guys were all here. All 4 of us really come from very similar backgrounds with the journalism, the multimedia, broadcasting, writing, photography, video. We all come from very similar backgrounds. And so, you know, I just want to be able to tell stories in as many different ways as possible. And, you know, one of the things that I want to do next year is some individual video features of the student athletes as well to kind of help complement some of the written features that we're doing and the other work that we're doing with social media, the other work that we're doing with our YouTube channel. We have a great YouTube channel. I think our social media channels really did very, very well this year with the content.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, this summer, I'm like, you know, like the rest of us, we're all thinking about what can we do to really help better tell the Ferris State athletic story.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the storytelling part is something that sort of changes over time because, you know, 10 years ago, social media platforms were not what they are now. They were still around, but we've had to evolve as social media has evolved and online presence has evolved. FerrisStateBulldogs.com, by the way, for the website. Ferris Athletics on YouTube, Spotify, all Instagram, X, TikTok. Had to plug the
we're everywhere.
The whole new plug real quick, but there's new things that can always be done, and there's trends that happen, especially when you're talking about TikTok things and Instagram things, and so brainstorming new ideas on how to better expose not only Ferris Athletics as a brand, but also individual student athletes and teams can be really important. So having an extra voice, another person to bounce ideas off of is one thing that I know many times this year I found beneficial. Nate and Molly, back doing corporate partners in our office, they've bounced ideas off of you and just leaning on some of that expertise.
Yeah, and I'm bouncing ideas off you guys. And, I think it gives a good energy back there in the warehouse, as we call it, back there.
The warehouse.
It gives some really good energy because, again, we're in it, for the passion that we have for it. And so as we can bounce ideas off of each other and to find ways to really enhance the brand a little bit and to get names and faces out there and find different ways that we can do it, we know it's going to be appreciated. And that's one of the great things about the summer that I was really excited about is to see, okay, take a deep breath because it's going to go quick. It's going to go quick. We're already coming toward the end of June.
Yeah.
And football media day is July 30th or 31st, whatever that Friday is. So football media day in July.
Yeah, it's almost it's like a month from now. It's
that's crazy
to think about.
And then the guys for football are going to be reporting right around that time. And so it's going to go quick. So Bulldog fans, enjoy your summer, but get ready because it's going to be fast and furious once things start.
I'm curious, Sandy, for your perspective, all of us doing broadcasting in one way or another, play-by-play, color commentary here and there, just different sports too, hockey, basketball, football, soccer, volleyball, literally everything in the broadcasting world. Yes, you are telling people what is happening, but I sort of view broadcasting as more of like you're presenting a story in a way that people listen and can visualize, but also you're helping them along on that journey. Now it's a little different, I guess, between TV or streaming and radio, but on radio specifically, you're filling in the dots, you're connecting things, you're saying what's right in front of you, but you're also telling a story. So we like to do things like interviews and direct stuff from players, what's happening in the locker room, conversations that are going on to try to fill in, yes, airtime, but also give people more of a straight connection to the players and to the team. Have you experienced that same sort of thing?
Yeah. And I think actually me being over here full-time in athletics, it's really helped me to get a better feel for the student athlete experience. I can drop into hockey practice now. I can go drop over to soccer practice. I can go to this practice or that practice and get have conversations with the athletes. And then that's going to help me from a broadcasting standpoint because I understand the inner dynamics of what is going on within a team and what's making them tick. You get a better feel for the trends. We've won, 3 in a row. How's the team feeling? Or hockey, we're coming off of a bye week and this is a critical week. We talked about that a couple times when we were doing previews about a critical week. And so, I love what we can do in broadcasting. And for me, fundamentally, when I'm working, if I'm the color guy, I'm more often than not, I'm the color guy. And I've worked with all three of you guys, and it's great for me to be able to fill the gaps so that we all mesh together when we're broadcasting. And so that's why it's fun for me to get a chance to do hockey more because I didn't get a chance to do hockey very often. And so it's been really fun for me to get a chance to do hockey a little bit more and, just for me to be able to add something to what you guys are presenting as the play-by-play.
Yeah, absolutely. And based on your experience, obviously coming from the Pioneer, right? And obviously Brody and I have spent time, and I currently still am. And I know we both worked at the Torch, Brody and I, and you did as well, right? Back in the day as well. Yeah, absolutely. And so what have you seen in the difference in how storytelling has changed, from the early days from when you were with the Pioneer, looking at the new modern technology, advanced media stage and age that we're in right now compared to, looking in the past, what it used to be?
Yeah, it's funny because, social media has really just changed the game. And back in the day, personally, I'm also excited 'cause I'm a photographer. So I love digital cameras. I didn't like film cameras as much. I know some of the old heads, they're like, man, we love the film cameras and going in and developing film. I do not miss that whatsoever. I'm very happy with high-end digital cameras, but I think social media has been probably the biggest game changer because there's more of an immediacy expectation for fans. And so, and we feel that all, when right after a game and we're doing graphics like for social media, I think journalism is feeling that too, that they have to be quick. And I know you're still doing some work from a journalism standpoint as well, but there's an expectation to get things out quick. You want to be accurate.
Yes.
But you want to get things out quick because that's just the expectation now with 24-hour news cycles, not only for news, but also for sports as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think too, I'm glad you brought that up because social media, not even just in athletics, but news-wise, so many people get their news just straight from hopping on Instagram reels or scrolling through X, and sports are no different. Yeah, you want scores from games and stats and things like that. But when there's big breaking news, Michigan State's athletic director just leaving, to go to Kentucky, that was blasted all over social media. And I saw it on social media before I saw it on any sort of long form story website, before MLive picked it up or anything over by the Detroit area. It was blasted on social media. And yes, it's not a full story. You're not reading 800 words about what's going on, but you're getting the headline.
Exactly.
And then it leads you to dig deeper to get the full story. So I actually think in that way, social media has helped a lot, where these news outlets can pick it up, put a headline on, and then link to a story later on, follow up with, here's the full release for the full information.
Absolutely. And I think, we do that to some extent with our social media. And so people sometimes in September, they're like, man, Brody, how are you spending your Sunday afternoon? Soccer's away on the road, but wait a minute. Because we're still telling that story sometimes with social media. We're doing social media, and then we got to do a release. And so, we're not begging for sympathy here, but there's a lot of work that goes into it, but it's a lot of fun. Because you get a chance to tell that story, and I have an expectation that it's going to be right there. Man, how's the Ferris hockey team doing on the road here? I can't tune in for some reason, but I got my phone here, and I can check X, or I can check Instagram, and I can get that score graphic at the end of the period, or I can get the scoring play tweet or something like that in the middle of the game. And so that expectation is there. And, and our work is to try to meet that expectation.
I'm curious your perspective too on, speaking of things that have changed over the years, even from when, Brandon and I were in school, what we're doing right now, podcasting, how that's changed the game of athletics, because every single university is finding ways to make new media, to be a pioneer and something new that's going on. But when you can pick up the game of podcasting and add that to your multimedia, I feel like it enhances the product so much, because you listeners, you hear our voices on a microphone during a game, but you also get to hear student athletes and Steve, the athletic director, and coaches, their voices through this platform in a sense that's maybe a little less formal than just microphones in their face answering questions from reporters. So I'm curious your take on what podcasting has done for multimedia in college athletics.
Yeah, not only that, but you've had Nate and Molly on here, right? Talking about the corporate sponsorship partnership side of it. You guys have had the strength and conditioning coaches on to talk about things. I don't know, maybe you guys had trainers on. I don't know, but we've had all kinds of people on here to be able to give that behind the scenes perspective, because, nobody thinks about necessarily, what the trainers are doing and how much time the trainers are investing, or the corporate sponsorships that it takes to really keep an athletic department going. And so there's lots of those kinds of stories, but podcasts are huge now, because think about this, even just beyond what we're doing, how many ex and even current athletes have podcasts right now?
Oh yeah.
From a professional standpoint, you got athletes right now, like Draymond Green, he's got his podcast going right now while he's still playing for Golden State. And so podcasts are huge. If you're not doing it, you're falling behind.
Yeah, you look at the St. Brown brothers in the NFL. They're both in the league still. I guess Equinemius, I'm not sure if he still is, but Amon-Ra, he's one of the best receivers in the National Football League, and doing a podcast. You got the New Heights podcast with the Kelseys. I believe at one point that was the biggest podcast in the world. I'm not sure if it still is, but I'm sure it's up there. And you got niche things like fantasy football podcasts, and then you got the Locked On series. Like, podcasting is huge, and I think at Ferris State specifically, we've done a really good job of building our brand through that same sort of media.
Yes.
And one of the things that makes podcasting so popular is that when we're doing the broadcasting for the game, it's kind of like the news section of your paper.
Sure.
And then the podcasting is kind of like your op-ed page, or your column, in the sports section. So you get a chance to hear a more of a personal perspective from Brody Kaiser, from Brandon Worth, from Sandy Gholston. You get a chance to hear a little bit more of a personal perspective. And then when you have athletes in these chairs that I'm sitting in right now, then you get their personal perspective, not just, Ella Wolf had the game-winning goal, and you get a chance to hear just how she saw that game-winning goal take place and what it meant for the team. Then you get to sit her down here. You talk about, a little bit more of the personal side. And I think that's one of the reasons that podcasts really resonate.
I love that so much. I've never even thought about that comparison, but it makes total sense, especially coming from the journalism realm, the news section, the op-ed section, and how journalism, what used to be print is now graduated, if you will, or evolved, morphed into an online experience.
Absolutely. I mean, print is expensive now. I mean, it's very expensive. Back in the day when I was younger, much younger than what you guys are now, that's all you really had. You had print, and then I'm really showing my age here. You had basically like 3 or 4 TV stations that you could watch. And so that's really pretty much all you had. But the problem with the challenge, I won't say problem, the challenge with print is that in the time that it takes you to write it, edit it, get it on the page, print it, get it in the hands of your readers, how much more has happened in those hours? You know what I mean? So it can kind of get old if you're just a game recap. By the time it gets into the hands of the reader physically, you could have read it on the website. You could have read it on social media. You could have listened to it. So there's a lot that has changed, and that's certainly impacted printing. Yeah,
distribution is instant.
Oh, yes. And you look at it, I mean, for me, you look at newspaper, right? You think about holding a physical ticket, those don't hardly exist anymore when you go to a game, right? When you have that in your hand, like there's a nostalgia that goes with it. Where were you? Now when you have it in your hand, you feel like you were there. You're sitting in your seat, right? You're experiencing it again. The way that we have social media, digital photos, videos, you're reliving it in a more shareable format. It's almost like, hey, you remember when we went to the game together, right? With you and your buddy, right? Remember when fake field goal for a touchdown, Bulldogs beat Grand Valley? Where were you when the J-Row trick play happened, right? When you have that now where it's, go back to YouTube and you can experience it, right? You're not just even trying to imagining it as the years go by and your memory obviously dwindles, but it's a more shareable and just a more long-lasting nostalgia. And I think that's what really sits with me, is because when we have these conversations, with all these athletes, we can recall back to where we were, but we had no idea, right, the things that happened, beforehand. Somebody, for example, going back to Melissa's story, they could just know that, she was a coach, right? They could have saw, there was like, oh, there's Bulldog. Maybe she used to run for them. But, just to think like, yeah, she would train at 6 a.m. Like, I would see her when I'm going into work. And there would be times where it'd be 6 a.m. where I would see her, and she would be then going in to coach, at 8 a.m. and run a full day. But nobody knows those things happen until we see them in a medium like this.
Yeah. And then you find out that not only is she doing all that, but she's a wife and she's a mom to 3 kids. She's got her doctorate in physical therapy. I mean,
every one of those things is a full-time job.
It's unbelievable. and for her to be able to accomplish all that is just so remarkable. So awesome. Melissa, if you hear this, I hope you're feeling the love because it's there. And that's just one story. I mean, there's so many that I've had a chance to tell, and I'm already just licking my chops about what we're going to be able to do this coming year, and just thinking about the football stories that we're going to be able to start telling in August. And then, it goes quick. And then next thing you know, hockey's getting started in October, and that's going. And then basketball's not too far behind that. And you got crossover season. Hopefully we're going to have another really positive football season, another really positive volleyball season. And so there's just so many great stories to tell. And I'm just like, my mind's just flooded with so many of the great ones we told.
Absolutely. And I know we're running out of time, which is so unfortunate, but in a synopsis, we're obviously thinking, all 3 of us, right? Next year, what's bigger? Oh, yeah. What's better? What's more efficient? What's cool for the fans? What are some of those things? I know you mentioned that you want to do the video features, which absolutely, that's going to be such a cool thing. What are some of those other things that Bulldog fans can expect coming into 26-27?
Yeah, I'm just looking for some different types of stories to tell. And one of the things about football is that, everybody gets excited about the recruiting class, and that's great. But in a program like ours, those guys are not going to really play, probably for at least a couple of years before they're going to get a chance to play. And so I'm excited to tell a story. Everybody talks about Wyatt Bauer, our quarterback.
Yes.
And Wyatt is phenomenal right there. He's already getting Harlan Hill Trophy mention, and certainly he's deserving of that. But Tarek Bauer, a lot of people don't know how good Tarek Bauer is and is going to be. And so my task is to try to find those types of stories, of the guys that are coming up, or the women that are going to be coming up in volleyball that are going to be taking that. And Haley Wegner is one that I told last year, the setter, for volleyball. She is an up and comer and wanted to be able to tell her story. Gabby Piazza as well from volleyball. So I want to be able to find those types of stories.
Yeah, and then you're looking at filling the gaps, right? I mean, we have such great media outlets all across West Michigan that pick up on those type of Harlan Hill trophy-winning players that we have here, but it's not just one player that wins a title. We've learned that. We've seen it like in front of our very eyes. We have a lot of those, quote unquote, glue guys, right? Those players that don't have the love, that people don't know about, that are playing night in and night out, some of the best on the team in terms of overall performance. And it's really cool to be able to, and I love that your approach is, and I know Brody and I look at it the same way, like we don't want to just talk to the top players. Like we want to know the nuts and bolts behind how the team goes. And when that happens, a lot of the times the people that are sitting in the chairs, they're the ones that actually aren't in front of the spotlight. They're the ones that are actually directing it. One of the things that I didn't mention, I want to squeeze this in before we're done, is I don't just write the feature stories. What I also try to do is I'll send emails to the hometown newspapers and TV stations. And one of the favorite ones that I got placed was one on Maya Hiram, and I got it placed in her hometown newspaper right around the time of the NCAA tournament. So I was really excited about getting that story placed. I got a great one placed for Emily Killian, who's a downriver area of Detroit. Mm-hmm. I actually passed downriver. Dundee, right?
Yeah, Dundee. So very downriver.
Yeah.
Almost to Ohio. But getting those kinds of stories placed. And so I try to take that extra step to try to see if I can communicate with the hometown media to see if we can place those stories. And I do it for all the sports, hockey, soccer, softball, go on and on and on. And so I try to really work to get those stories placed and take that extra step. Such a cool thing. And I know, guys, we could probably go double the length that we are right now. Run it back another half hour. But unfortunately, we are running out of time. But Sandy, thank you so much for joining us here. We're so glad to have your perspective. I mean, it's been great. I know Brody and I said this off the top. Full asset to have you here full time. I mean, I can already know the Bulldog fans that I've talked to. They love it. They want to see more of it, and we can't wait to see what happens this next year. Well, they definitely will see more of it, and hey, I'm always available. Let me know if you guys want to run it back and do another one. Absolutely. Brody, any last thoughts? No, I just want to echo that same thing. Really appreciate everything you bring to our side of the communications. It's been a great experience for the fans to have more coverage and more visibility from what you do, but just to have your presence in the office and your insight has been a big help for me. So thank you for that. Well, I appreciate that. Absolutely. And for those that want Sandy again, we are planning on having him and Rob on in August as we get closer to preview all of the sports, which of course shall be pretty much here tomorrow. Before we blink at this point. It feels like it at this point. It's going fast. Absolutely. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to Behind the Bulldogs on all podcast platforms, and we'll see you on the next episode.